Namaskar, welcome back. There's a short discourse in the Thoughts of P.R. Sarkar where our Guru says that when you leave aside all other things and the mind rushes towards the Absolute, that is devotion. So I've been thinking about that the last couple of weeks, and the word exclusive came to my mind. That is, exclusive focus on the Supreme Consciousness, putting aside all other things, exclusive focus. And then some weeks ago, I was talking about developing a personal relationship. So that word's coming in my mind as well. And finally, a third word, and that is service. So on many occasions, our Guru said that keeping the quality of service, feeling that you are serving the Supreme Consciousness, is essential for success in meditation. So there's a number of things, important things to keep in mind to get real depth and intensity in meditation. And it helps me, at any rate, just to keep the key words that define those things that I want to keep in mind, keep them going in my meditation. So I find myself recently meditating, but as I'm repeating the mantra, I now and then just think about or repeat those key words. So they are exclusive, personal, service. So curious about that, I wondered what Sri Anandamurti, our Guru, had to say about this word exclusive, and whether there were any of his discourses where he brought those elements together. So I went looking for it, and what I have for you today is a few short quotations taken from different discourses, but they all have this word exclusive in them. So we'll read the discourses, and then I have a few comments to share with you after that. The first and foremost attribute for liberation or salvation is the irresistible urge for God realization. Exclusive devotion to Paramapurusha is all that is needed. No external ritual has anything to do with liberation or salvation. People practice those things only for their self-satisfaction. The second quote: there is no other way to attain Paramapurusha except through the exclusive urge for him, through a personal relationship with him. Hence, human beings, discarding the vain effort to follow the path of argumentation and intellectuality, will have to resort to the path of devotion and intense longing for the Supreme Consciousness, the path of supreme singularity, rejecting the path of multiplicities. And the next one. Lord Krishna said that whoever meditates on him with exclusive, unwavering devotion will be liberated from all sins. When microcosms ideate on the Supreme Entity, they feel joy, and the Supreme Entity also feels joy. Everyone wants joy. The devotees also want joy. Devotees worship Paramapurusha with the sole intention of giving him joy. A mother derives more pleasure from seeing her own child eat than by eating her own food. Similarly, those who are the greatest devotees rush towards him to give him joy. They feel much more joy than their Lord feels. Next one's a bit longer. There are two broad categories of love or devotion, prema and parabhakti. Prema, love for the Supreme, occurs when there is a strong attraction for the Supreme Entity, as opposed to kama, which is love for relative objects. Even though the I feeling greatly expands as one strives to seek shelter in the Supreme Consciousness, the existential I feeling does not altogether disappear. So, through prema, one can attain mukti, liberation. But to attain moksha, salvation, the highest state, parabhakti, exclusive devotion to Paramapurusha is required. Parabhakti liberates spiritual aspirants from the bondage of I feeling permanently. One should bear in mind that parabhakti is not a state of inaction. Rather, a tremendous vital faculty lies behind parabhakti. However much people might pursue the cult of knowledge and action, the science of Brahma should be taught only to those who possess parabhakti. This parabhakti should be directed towards both Brahma and the Guru. One should remember that there is only one Guru. The actual Guru is not the physical body of a Guru, but the entity who works through the physical body. Hence, Paramatma alone is the Guru. Through parabhakti, one can easily transcend one's I feeling and attain the non-attributional stance. And the last one. Spiritual aspirants should remember that they will have to become completely dedicated to their ideology or adarsha. More important than this is that they will have to become dedicated to their ishta. They will have to establish a relationship of exclusive devotion to ishta. If there is not intense attachment to one's ishta in one's heart, then one cannot do anything. Thus, during sadhana, during spiritual practice, you should think that as you are thinking of the Supreme Consciousness, He is also thinking of you. This is the proper devotion to one's ishta. When people do something exclusively for themselves, their mental tendency is called ashakti, or attachment. And when they do something not for their personal satisfaction, but for the pleasure of Paramapurusha, their mental tendency is called bhakti, or devotion. So, the word exclusive. So, this feeling of putting aside all other things, exclusive focus on the Supreme Consciousness. We may not feel that our devotion is so intense as that. But like all qualities, we can grow this quality of exclusiveness if we focus on it. So that's why I'm finding it helpful to keep this word exclusive in mind. And I find that actually it does help. When I meditate, I want to think exclusively about the Supreme Consciousness, not about something else. And just keeping that word in mind, repeating it to myself now and then during the meditation process helps develop that feeling of exclusive focus. Another thing that helps that is taking time to really withdraw the mind from external things and focus in your chakra point. I find 3 phrases help me do that. The first is, no universe, just love. Right? The second is, no body, just love. And the third is, no ego, just love. So that's a little bit of a shortcut as far as the process of withdrawal that we do in our system of meditation. But basically that's what we're doing. We're withdrawing the mind from the external world. We're withdrawing the mind from the body. We're withdrawing the mind from the sense of personality. And we're just coming down to one point, becoming one-pointed. And so practically it's about excluding the world, excluding the body, and excluding the ego, and just coming down. And once you're there in your chakra point, then focusing on this thought of the supreme consciousness exclusively. All other things are gone. I think another thought or idea that helps this exclusiveness is reminding oneself that actually there is nothing except Paramapurusha. Everything in this universe is an expression of Paramapurusha. So whether you intend to or not, whatever you think about, whatever thought comes in your mind is also Paramapurusha. And you can help yourself get that sense of exclusiveness whenever any distraction comes up, reminding yourself distractions are also Paramapurusha, or this particular distraction is also Paramapurusha. And actually that's the advice that our Guru Sri Sri Anandamurti also gives. When distractions disturb you, immediately remind yourself this is also the Supreme Consciousness. And then the word personal. So there was, I think that the second quote, it included both exclusive and personal, which is what I was looking for. There is no other way to attain Paramapurusha except through the exclusive urge for him through a personal relationship with him. And this word also can, if you focus on it, you can grow that feeling of personal presence and personal relationship, and feeling that Paramapurusha is something personal, not something abstract, which is quite easy to do if, to get limited in the kind of abstract sense of the divine, especially if you're imagining, something infinite and eternal. So personally, excuse no pun intended, but I find that helps me a lot to focus on this word personal. It just somehow makes it happen. I don't know how. And then the last word, service. So there's the third quote says that devotees worship Paramapurusha with the only intention of giving him joy. So, but paradoxically you find, it says here a moment later, a mother gets more pleasure from seeing her own child eat than by eating her own food. So paradoxically, when you have this feeling that you're not thinking about your own joy, you're thinking about giving joy to the Supreme Consciousness in meditation, it gives you joy because you feel happiness that you are giving happiness to Paramapurusha. And that kind of large-heartedness. What is meditation about? It's about opening your heart and expanding, right? So this thought of giving to someone more than yourself, not thinking about yourself, thinking about something, serving something greater. And serving what? Serving the most infinite entity, the most powerful entity in the universe. So that attitude of service is expanding, and you are serving that which is also infinite, so that's also expanding. And that brings a very intense, beautiful feeling of bliss. So those are the three words. And then, although I didn't include a word for it, it's also mentioned in the last quote that during sadhana, during meditation, you should think that as you are thinking of the Supreme Consciousness, He is also thinking of you. This is the proper devotion to one's ishta. So the word ishta means your guru, your personal goal, right? And then gives a nice distinction between what is attachment and what is devotion. So when people do something for themselves exclusively, their mental tendency is called attachment, and when they do something not for their personal satisfaction, but for pleasing Paramapurusha, that mental tendency is called devotion. So in many, many discourses, Sri Sri Anandamurti emphasized this secret of meditation, this most important secret in the universe, he called it, is to always think that the Supreme Consciousness is seeing you, is witnessing you in meditation. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So there's quite a lot of different attitudes, subtle attitudes to cultivate that really have an impact on meditation. But it's definitely possible to, kind of keep them in mind and try to get all of them happening together. So having that clear idea of what you're trying to do in the meditation helps make this happen. And the three words which summarize that effort, so exclusive, personal, service, just kind of summarize it and help keep you focused on those attitudes. And then lastly, that idea that as you're meditating, remembering that the Supreme Consciousness is also meditating on you, thinking about you. So that's what's happening for me in my meditation at the moment. I'm finding it really helps quickly get a sense of depth and power and sweetness in the meditation. And I hope if you give it a try, you might find it helpful for yourselves also. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a great week. Namaskar.